When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ludlow, and enjoy today's episode. I think the industry, the old guard are doing things with everybody played the long game. I heard the long game mentioned so many times by the old OGs of the industry. A lot of them have left, retired, got out of the industry after COVID. A lot of people left the industry after COVID. There was no work, so everybody got out and went and did something else. That's why there's such a manpower shortage to support a lot of these projects right now. And so I think we're dealing with a new generation, instant gratification, and I think it's going to take the OGs in the industry now to coach and mentor them and match the value of what you're doing as in the mixers. That's when that's when these young agents come in the room, wanting help, reaching out, needing guidance. And that's why, these schools are so imperative to teach the new young the proper way of character, integrity, to trust, the value system. Because obviously, I think there's a value breakdown right now in our culture currently. And that's why the work ethic, we're seeing the work ethic the way it is, because the values aren't similar to what they were 20 years ago. And we have many things that changes the value systems, family upbringing, whatever that may be. And that's why we have a sense of entitlement that they want, X amount of dollars per hour. I'm like, wait a minute. We didn't make that in the day. I mean, I remember when I had my first CCW in California, I was making $25 an hour, $300 a day. That was great money back in 2008, I think it was.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, that's guard money, but it's inflation.
Yeah.
Now we're dealing with inflationary head issues. And I try to tell my friends out there, I see posts on social media about, I have to remind them, hey, we're $33 trillion in debt as a country. That means the dollar is pretty much worth nothing. That's why gas is almost $5 a gallon, because the dollar is getting more devalued because of our debt as a country. And that's what we're seeing. That's why there's such, paying our unearned dollars, like say the Bay Area, $40 an hour. What? $40 an hour? Like they won't even answer a thread if they don't get a 10-hour shift, because they got to drive in, drive out. And I think that the younger agents have gotten smarter. They figured out the game. They all talk, and they'll sit on the sidelines on a thread, and they see a job post, and they'll wait, make the owner of the company sweat, and make him pump up the contract amount for the day before they even respond. I think they get back there and they text each other, hey, it's like we're in Vegas, you gambling on the table job.
Yeah.
They're going to take it. Wait, hold on, guys. Give it 5 minutes, give it an hour. They're going to start getting desperate. They're going to start pumping the rate up. And so I swear that's the new industry we live in, because everybody texts, everything's social media driven. I've never seen a shift happen so quickly. But that's kind of, from my point of view, that's kind of what I'm seeing. And agents are demanding more, but you can demand more, but the clients write the check.
Yeah.
And they deem the value of your product, not you. Yeah, you may have 100 certifications. That's nice, but my value is this. Well, not to the buyer.
Right. Well, and that's... Excuse me. And that's another thing. And we could go on and on about, right?
Easily.
But also, one of the things I think this gets forgotten about, especially, or not talked about. I don't know where sometimes the breakdown is. And not that it's so prevalent, but it does happen, is that, you have people coming out and say, well, I've been to school, I've applied to all these places, and I'm not getting any love. So I'd love to hear, somebody from one of the bigger companies talk about that. Like, why do people get passed over? And I got to think that one of them is that, one, are they able to follow directions, like submitting their things, right? Because that'll get you washed out, right? Especially in this industry, where details matter. Are you doing what you're being asked to do, or are you not? And how many times did we have to ask you? And if we have to ask you once, that might be too many. But also, too, is the client is looking to meet somebody specific. The client
absolutely
sets who is around them. And if if they don't like blonde hair, if they don't like bald guys,
you're not in.
I'm finished,
sorry.
Right? If we hate beards, I'm done, right?
You're done.
And so, and it could be, and so it's like, well, we want the 6. Well, not everybody wants the 6 foot, 6'2"
true.
guy. Not everybody wants. Some people want exclusively women, or at least Halfton, or one per shift, or what, and on and on and on of who are they looking for, and so bringing that out, but then also there's some people that just aren't cut out for the job too, or their role is going to be forever. Maybe, I hate to use that. That's not fair terminology, but like they're going to be halls and walls on grave shift for a while. We got to get them cultured. We have to get them socialized. There's things that this person needs to work on to get them up. So once you get in the door, like, listen to what the people are telling you, what your supervision's telling you, what your leadership's telling you about what's going to help you elevate in the industry. What's the next role? Like, you're not going to go from school or the military or law enforcement probably to coverage on your C-suite executive from, whatever tech giant you want to pick in the Bay. Or anybody for that matter, if they have any sort of experienced protection team, there's stepping stones. Like, you have to do that. Like, we wouldn't put that guy on the principal. They can sit outside in front at the house. What, RST? Sure, we're going to put them on nights at first, and they'll meet them, but there's not going to be too much interaction. But until that person is, again, all those things, is cultured, is up to speed, is showing that they can show up on time, and all of the stuff that, regardless of the job, that you have to do to progress, you're going to have to do that. But then also there's some people that it's like, not to get into to go law enforcement, but like, there's plenty of law enforcement. There's plenty of cops out there. Patrol. I want to be on the streets. That's what I want to do, and I will make a career of it. My brother's the chief of police at his department. He wanted to progress. There was a guy that came in not long after him, or he might have been before. I think it was after him, who has been in patrol the same amount of time that he's been there. That's what he wants to do. That's great. So there's a role if that's what you want to do, but you also have to understand, again, get honest with yourself of what is it that you can offer. Are you listening to people? Are you able to give coverage? And I'm sure alpha types are going to say, yeah, absolutely I can, but not really.
Well, here's the big disqualifier. I've talked to several directors of security that have been guests on the show, and their biggest complaint with a lot of these agents are HR starts digging into the social media, and they have guns and ARs on their social media, Facebook, and they're out there doing whatever they're doing. I have no issues. I'm a Marine. I love that stuff. I love going to the range and shooting stuff up and blowing stuff up. It brings me back to my Marine Corps days. So I enjoy that stuff. Yeah. However, the person hiring you, if they're scrubbing you from HR and you're taking lead, you're in the top stack. And then when I hear, like Zach, for example, Pelican Resort, he said, my VP of HR said if they see any guns on their social media, regardless, they're out. Period. And I've heard that from 3 different directors of security before I brought anybody on board. Some direct clients, they said, we got to make sure they don't have anything on social media. If they do, tell them to deactivate their account before we talk to them. I'm like, really? Branding is such a big deal right now to these corporations because they don't want a liability. They don't want that guy's profile popping up somewhere with an issue. Liability now has become social media with a lot of these companies that are utilizing RST agents or, travel EB agents is what I'm hearing. They're just, the biggest disqualifier is people on social media. They just won't shut it down or take it off or remove it. And so I think that's the hindrance I'm seeing from a lot of directors of security, different roles, CISOs. They don't want the risk of it, of the reputation coming back to bite them.
And one of the, and that could be, and, as far as the people that are keeping it up and keeping it on, I mean, but but work isn't my life, but the CEO that you're protecting,
It is.
their work is their life.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a mismatch of priorities. And again, like you said, if that's what you want, go do it.
More power to you.
There's
go
going to be
follow your ARs and go to shoot some metal targets and have a blast and hang out with the boys. There's nothing wrong with that. I enjoy that stuff too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But do you want a job? Do you want to work? Make that $150,000 a year and you have a corporation check you out. I mean, me being a company, I get vetted. I had First Public Bank. Guess what? They scrubbed us for 4 months before they allow us to be their vendor.
Yeah.
I couldn't have any legal issues with anybody. Lawsuits, litigation, nothing. I had to be clean to get approved by the FDIC approved bank.
Yeah.
And that's the regulation standard. Being a company, you're a part owner. That's what you go through to get vetted to get a contract. And now we just got our cage number with the federal government. We're in the SAM system. So now we're able to do that. But you have to keep a clean image if you want to work with these Fortune 100, 500 companies. That's just from the company standpoint, being a provider of security services. Yeah. And then, of course, they check to make sure I have license. Yep, I'm licensed in Oregon. Mm-hmm. GO, worker comp, I have all of it, and I had to submit the policies. And it's just what you have to do to be considered legit and work in the business. But yeah, that's, I don't know what's it's going to take, but there's a lot of work out there, but I think people do themselves a disservice. Do you want to be popular on social media? I have my podcast. I'm on Facebook. I'm blasting stuff content all the time because of the podcast. Yeah. And of course, we got the website and stuff. So that's just brand awareness. But yeah, it's touchy. It's tricky to balance it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And it comes down to it's knowing yourself. What are you willing to give up to get to where you want to go? And here's the thing, you might not know, but you got to give yourself the best opportunity to get there, or you don't, right? It's like, it's a decision that you have to make. And it's, what are you willing to do? Do you live in the middle of nowhere, Iowa, and you want to be an EP? Yeah, but I don't want to, I love Iowa. I don't want to leave. Okay, well then don't leave. But here's some things that you're going to have to deal with, I'll go to New York. And, the cost of living is going to go up and, you're going to you may have to travel an hour to get to work every day and out, if not more, by car because you want to live upstate or, whatever it is. There's decisions that you have to make, and then be okay with it. It doesn't mean you can't change your mind. And sometimes you have to do that. You have to bounce between for a little bit until you really decide. And now I say that there's plenty of people that, because do I want to be on the East Coast or want to be on the West Coast? And as I've gotten older, I wanted to be closer to my family. My family's, or my parents are older. They're in good health, thank God. But, but they're older, and so it could, I say this, it could be any day, but they're pretty healthy. But I wanted to be back here closer, and have ease of access to get to them. And they said, when you called earlier, I was on, I was hanging out with my mom, and she's an hour and 15 minutes away. And I just saw my dad 2 weekends ago, and he lives, other end of east side of Pennsylvania. So, but it's remarkably better than living in Vegas and trying to figure out a flight in an emergency situation. Now I just jump in the car and I go. But that's a decision, right? I want to be here. My wife wants to be here. She has her reasons. So that's what we're going to do for now, and that, is that detrimental to work? Maybe, but a lot of the things that I do are online, but then a lot of stuff Maverick does, it's not all EP. A lot of it's workplace violence response, and that's one of those things that you have to open it up. I went to EP school. I just, I do EP. Okay. And you'll sit around for a long time if you live in Iowa or Ohio or, or wherever potentially, or maybe you do get the job, whatever. Like it could go a million ways, but if you're in LA or if you're in New York or if you're in DC, there's a good chance if you want to find work, it's there to get. and so it's just decisions and then taking action around it.
What markets do you see expanding right now during the presidential election cycle we're in? What regions of the country are growing, expanding from what you're seeing from conversations you're having?
Well, oh man, who was I forget who I was talking to the other day, but we were talking about, where is, who, based on who's polling, where are they going to go? And somebody was like, well, Trump's not coming to Ohio. He's like, he's got that sewn up. I don't pay enough attention to politics to really know, but I'm like, okay, then he's not going to be in Ohio. But wherever he is going to go, that will draw attention. That will draw security. Where President Biden goes, right? I don't know, right? But where does he need to? So right. with an election year, for those who are in the know with politics, pay attention, and wherever that's happening is where it's happening.
So as far as growing markets, trends of growing market, what are the growing markets you see taking place that are shipping right now, where the need will be? Is it Houston? Is it Florida, Alabama, Georgia? What do you see out there in the Midwest?
A lot of, you always hear stuff about Texas, right? I mean, I think part of the reason Mike's doing his thing down there is because it is growing, right? And it is growing. When you have these personalities going there, even without, Joe Rogan can only have so many people on his protection team in Austin, right?
Yeah,
but
sure.
It draws attention to, he's an international figure. So it draws attention to Texas. And well, who else is going to go there? Not because Joe Rogan's there, but he went there. Why'd he go there? What might work for me? Patrick Bet-David, who was in LA or Southern California, wherever he was, then Texas to Dallas, interestingly enough. And now he's in Fort Lauderdale. So,
wow.
So Florida is, especially during the pandemic, of all the things that they were letting go, it's like, hey, that's really inviting to somebody that, that can make the move. Is it growing? I'll tell you, not so much geographically, but workplace violence. My buddy, from Bedrock Security out in Utah, and they were working in Nevada, and I had done some work for them in Nevada, about 10 years ago. They were doing a lot of work. He was pushing a lot of workplace protection, right? Workplace violence response.
Yeah.
I didn't get it then. But boy, do we now, sure. These labor disputes and strikes.
Oh, yeah.
Those seem to be becoming an increasing thing. Midwest manufacturing, like it's here,
Yes, sir.
We're, Mavericks on, I don't know how many they're on now, but at one point they think we were on a few strikes, or prepping for a few strikes.
Of course.
So there's that, manufacturing and just all the personalities that are in one building at one time, and trying to manage that. We get the call for, hey, we're going to can somebody, or hey, we did can somebody and now they're making threats. And that's kind of how that goes. So that's that as far as a market within the industry, of a service. That's definitely one that, we have seen exponential growth just over the last last 12 months. Really, it's been there, but like last 12 months, I think it's been really, they've been pouring it on. And that is a place to go get work. It's just like, do you want to sit on the sidelines and make sure that you are doing EP, or do you want to get paid? You just keep doing it until the other things, because it can't stop there. Just because you're doing a job, and that's tough for the smaller companies. Mavericks is relatively, it's a smaller company, but it's growing at a pretty good clip right now. But part of that is because we have a business guy that's running it. Dave's a serial entrepreneur, and he doesn't say no a lot, because you say no too many times and that's it. And it's like, but when things come up, we we've been fortunate enough to get it covered. And then get the next call. So, but that's a market segment that is as I see, we've seen grow. So, but then also with that, there's the EP calls that didn't come in. Well, the CEO is going to come in and visit. Okay, well, we can cover that too.
So your main position now with the company is is it more communication side, just awareness of the brand, getting out there,
business development? Yeah,
business development. Got it.
Yeah, I keep going out. Dave was supposed to be in Vegas for ISC West, but something popped the other day, and he's like, "Yeah," he goes, "I can't justify getting away." He goes, "You're flying solo." Roger that, So
yeah, I reached out to a bunch of our podcast guests myself, and 80% of them said due to budget cuts and non-operational biz trip, they couldn't even go. Companies said nope. Yeah, not really worth it. Like, whoa, wow.
Yeah,
so, we're seeing that.
Yeah, from the mixer standpoint, we do. We gather states or where people are from, and it's a vast majority of West Coast, Western United States, I guess I should say. A lot of Nevada, obviously.
Sure.
California, Montana, Utah, Colorado, Washington, Oregon, clearly, Arizona. So, very regional, Southwest, $59 flight. That like they can do that inside. Like I think even Mike Julian's coming in the day before and leaving the night of the event. Like he's coming to the event and then leaving. And why he's doing that, I don't know, but that's just one of those, like he lives in San Diego County or Riverside or whatever, Southern California. Right. He up over the mountains, he's there, and then he just goes back. So I think if you're capable of doing that, then you're doing okay. And then we'll see what happens with GSX, because we're going to have an event around GSX. And so we'll see if that just keeps the East Coast folks, so we'll see, but we pay attention to that too.
Yes. I noticed there's a big difference in how people work in different parts of the country, like mixers and stuff in the West Coast. That's become the culture of executive protection, like what you're doing, you're hosting. That's become the phenomenon of how people meet and get together. That's like the East Coast was like, I don't know if we can trust you guys over there. And I talked to several people on the East Coast, their perspective on different people on the West Coast, and there's like it's almost like a Civil War game.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you got to warm up to this idea because it works. And I think they're still stuck, 5 years ago on how we did business over there on the East Coast. And it's just like, well, this is how we're doing business now, and it seems to be working. So I think there's the way, culturally, the way people do business on the West Coast and the East Coast are totally the opposite. It's kind of weird to me.
It's East Coast people from the East Coast don't trust people from the East Coast. Like it's just like that's the nature, right? I mean, when you get East Coast, right? I'm from I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, north of Pittsburgh. Okay. So if you ask somebody from New York, they'll say, "Oh, you're from the East Coast." If you ask somebody from Ohio, they're like, "Oh, you're Midwest." I'm like, okay, like personally, like whatever. Okay. But networking is really. While it's been around, it wasn't until I was in California that I started putting that all kind of together. For the effectiveness of it, right? and really understanding it, and doing it well, and not freaking winging it. Like, I'll go meet some people tonight. It's like, no, go in there with a plan, have goals. Know what you're going to say. Have a couple of questions. Provide value. Think about what you can do for these people, right? Who is it that you want to meet? Like, what type of person, what profession? Obviously, with the mixers, it's like, okay, there's protection people. So it's like, that's who's going to be there. But you're going to a chamber of commerce, like go in there and it's a mishmash of different professions and different people at different levels. Like, what can you bring to the table and for who? And so you think about that. But when I was in, when I was in Southern California, that's what I was that's where it kind of came to, like, very open type of culture and things like that. And some people love that. Some people hate it. It's like, or can you just use it for what it is? And so it taught me a lot, and I was part of a BNI group, in Southern California, when I was doing something a little bit, something kind of related to what I do now with the mixer, but not totally, but something that I had kind of done in Vegas while I was there. And I just wanted to, it taught me how to network, and there's a what's it called? A phrase, an idea, a theory of what Dr. Ivan Meisner, the founder of BNI, calls giver's gain. And we talk about giving first, right? And what is that?
Mm-hmm.
It always gets you more if you give it time than just trying to go out and get only. And so, but being out there, I was part of a chamber, part of a BNI. So I spent my days and nights, networking, and at that point, it taught me a lot, and it actually introduced me to what was then my coach, like a life coach. She had gone through the Tony Robbins program, but she was working for herself, and I met her at a mixer, and because of the conversations that she and I had, I developed my first networking course. And then I went and got life insurance license, and I started doing all this other stuff. But it was like, once you cleared out all that baggage, that, those limited self-beliefs, I went at, like, things started to get better again. And that all came from networking. So,
I like how you said that you had limited self-belief and you had to overcome that mental block that you had through, your personal development through Tony Robbins. I think we all need to do that. I've been part of different organizations. I'm not going to disclose that on the podcast, but I've had mentors that are multi-millionaires in different organizations that I was a part of a mentoring association. And you're exactly right. Your power of association. Who are your mentors? Who are your coaches? Because you show me who those people are, and I'll show you the future of your life.
Yeah.
And,
agreed. Yeah.
And the people that are so into you, that have what you're looking for, that's who you'll become. The ones that talk to you, advise you. People who advise you and talk to you, if they're not going anywhere, you're not going to go anywhere.
Right.
So you need to probably snip those relationships. Not trying to be mean on this podcast, but try to figure out where your plan is. Write out your action plan for the next 5 to 10 years. Find out who's there. Reach out to them and say, hey, can I buy some of your time?
Yeah.
Because the busy people, they're busy. Like Mike Gilliam, he's got multiple businesses going on over there. Shout out to Mike. He's a good guy. Got
always
a good heart. He's always serving the industry.
Time. Yeah.
And time is money to a business owner.
Yeah.
And time, like Christian West, he doesn't have time. He's busy doing things with Joe Horson now. But if you want that person's time, they're going to charge you. Well, that's ripping somebody off. They value their time.
And not for what they know. Like, do you want what they have? Then you're probably gonna have to pay for it, because they probably did too. And so, they're just getting their money back.
Yeah, they're getting their money back. Exactly. Because I know people that charge for podcasts, and, they have a big following, and they charge for that attention because they're busy. And, I run 3 different companies. They got Ludlow, we're global, we're nationwide, and I got the podcast. But I wanted to go back to something you said. Networking. I discovered networking too when I was a merchant service regional manager for WAMU.
Okay.
And I did that, and I was a cell phone sales guy. And then before that, I was a relationship manager of the bank. And networking, that's where I got my chops wet, the networking. And then I got this industry, and it came naturally, it just came easy.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2008, the market crashed. And so we know what happened to all the banks. So I might as well become a bodyguard. I got the military background. I think I could pull that off.
Yeah.
But networking is about human relationships. And the most expensive thing you ever buy is someone's trust.
Yeah.
And the fastest thing you'll lose in this industry is someone's trust. The minute you try poaching or going dirty on somebody, they got you in the door.
Mm-hmm.
Because this industry is kind of like the mafia. The thing called loyalty, it exists within human relationships. Yeah. And I think the young generations think, I just flipped my card. No, that's just respecting the relationship.
Yeah.
And you just don't flip somebody's card. That's just being dirty in this industry. And I see a lot of that happening. I mean, I've ran a couple of details and all of a sudden, I heard, someone's card was slipped out. I'm like, oh, they're done. Remember, you just violated that trust. This thing's about building trust.
Yeah. And I can say what better way to do it, because there's better ways to do it, of doing the right thing, and it goes back to being on time, answering your phone and all that stuff is one of them, right? Is doing the right thing, is open communication, is transparency, all that, like that's another way or part of the puzzle. And again, as I tie everything back to networking, if you can go be belly to belly with somebody and have a conversation about whatever.
I just got a visual of two guys with basketball-sized bellies pumping each other.
I said that to somebody the other day, but I've never heard that. I'm like, really?
Belly to belly.
Yeah, but so you're face to face with somebody, right? And you're able to look them in the eye and have a conversation about what, and it doesn't necessarily need to be about protection, security. Mm-hmm. It could be, let me find out about how does this guy view his family? How does this guy view his mother? How does he view his father? What kind of, and that takes getting personal, which, as we both know, plenty of people that rather keep you at arm's distance, right? For whatever reason. And there's no presupposition as to why, but that's just how they like it. Okay. But that takes a deeper conversation, which is what networking is. One of the things, one of the way that I open up my, one of my networking classes is, right, I kind of go through the beginning of it, and I'll say, I want you, and if it's a live class and I'm in, with people in the room, I'll say, okay, I want you to look at your neighbor and I want you to tell them what your favorite dessert is. And it's like, okay, not only do I want you to tell them what it is, I want you to tell them why. And let me start. My favorite dessert is pumpkin pie with Cool Whip. Now, I'll use the Ready Whip garbage, but Cool Whip is what I like, right? And the reason I love Cool Whip pumpkin pie with Cool Whip is because, one, it pairs really well with coffee. There's a light sweetness with the Cool Whip, and there's a light spice with the pumpkin that, for whatever reason, it goes for me. But the most important reason is that for about 20 years, when I was having pumpkin pie with Cool Whip, I was at my childhood home around Christmas time. And that is a special time, place and time for me. That's why I love pumpkin pie with Cool Whip. Mm. And then I'll lose control of the room for 5 minutes, even though it's a 30-second explanation, but people, they go off. Who doesn't love talking about their favorite dessert?
You created an emotional connection.
I'll say, listen, folks, I don't want anybody to freak out right now, but you just networked with somebody. You just connected with somebody. Did you share something private? Yeah, it wasn't a credit card. It wasn't a social security number, but was it personal? That's what we're going for. So it doesn't have to be, what kind of Glock do I carry? Or it doesn't have to be about the talk and, the last time you were in Malaysia. It can be, hey, I was visiting my mom the other day and she makes this pizza dip that I just absolutely love. My friends have loved it for years. My new family, they all love it. And, what pizza dip? What's it? And then all of a sudden we're talking about pizza dip. The connection that you're looking for, right? Not the conversation. The conversation, yes, and that leads to connection, but that's where you're trying to get to.
And that's when that will remember. In training, in dog training, I just had a gal on. That's what she does, the dog training and branding. She's a branding master. She's on a podcast, huge following. And we talked about branding business. We didn't talk about anything about security. But right. I learned from her, the minute emotional connection is made during a training exercise, that moment will be remembered. Otherwise, it's death by PowerPoint, as Byron Rogers always says.
Yeah.
So I learned something this week, just being a podcast host. Whoa. If you create a laugh the minute you say something or feel an emotion of anger or you want to shed a tear, that emotional connection is made for that human being at that moment in time. And you'll retain that information. Otherwise, you probably forget about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can go back to the whole, people forget what you say or what you did, but they don't forget how you made them feel.
Boom.
And so it's real. And I remember plenty of things that people said, but why did I remember them? Because it meant something to me.
It meant something. I mean,
I felt it, whatever,
exactly.
whatever it was, and that, and you can go back or I can go back and look and think about, why did I remember that? Well, that resonated with me. Again, it doesn't have to be, like you said, it doesn't have to be a laugh. It shed a tear, but like I felt it for whatever reason. And
it hits home.
Yeah, it hits home, or I needed to hear that right now. One of Tony Robbins talks about, you don't change the goal, right? You remember it. Don't change the goal, change the approach. But also, he used the term bite-sized chunks.
Right.
People look at, like, I want to become a bodyguard for the first time or whatever. I want to, or I want to do whatever it is that they want to do. I want to bench press 300 pounds, but I can only bench 135 right now. Well, so the next goal should be a 25 pound or a 5 pound plate on either side on top of the 45. And then the next goal is 10. And so I can get to those within a couple weeks, let alone, but I can get to 300. That might take a year. It might take 18 months, whatever it is. But if you look at it that way, then it's like, oh, why even bother? But it's like, if I can push out 145 by the end of this month, I'm on my way, and peace, and on and on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Got a little psychology, human development there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Craig, do you have any words of wisdom before you wrap this up to the industry? Congrats on, you're looking for sponsors for DC, right? You're looking for some help with that. Okay. Yeah, so the audience listening, if you want to, if you're out East Coast, you want to help Craig and Christian and the Mixer event, they'd love to hear from you, I'm sure. Yep. Any parting words to any of the agents, industry leaders out there listening to this?
One of the things that I'll say, and I won't get heavy handed on it, but the only reason that I'm here 25 years later, and I'm not some great business person, or I'm a competent protector. I'm good at it, but I show up on time. I do all the things that make you a good employee. And that's what has helped move me along. But if there's something that you're looking to do, just don't stop doing that. Right? Don't quit. Like just keep going. It might not be what you thought it was going to be. It probably won't be, quite honestly. Like, I mean, first time you're standing in halls and walls, you're like, hell yeah, here I am. I'm doing it. Right. And, and about a month into that, you're like, oh man, halls and walls again. It's midnight. I am tired. Right. But you just keep doing. And that's one of it's keep doing and being open to what opportunities come to you, because what you think you should be doing might not be what you should be doing. I didn't know I was going to do mixers, right? I didn't know that was something that was going to appeal to me in this industry, but I like the people in the industry, and I want to be around them. And so with that, how do I affect the most change, or how do I influence it the way that I would want to influence it? And it's through networking, it's through mixers, it's through offering other trainings to other people. And like you said, it's, the personal development, professional development. You don't stop with that. You may take a break, but there's so much free stuff out there that you can get. There's so much reasonably priced stuff you can get. You don't have to travel. So don't quit, keep learning, and don't quit.
Great advice. Never give up. Like Tom Brady says, next. What's next? Yeah. Where can people find you in the social media world? So,
so I'm on Instagram. It's just Craig McKim Network. That's me personally. And then EP Mixer for EP Mixer. Same with Facebook, EP Mixer. I'm not on Facebook a whole lot, but I do. I mean, I promote there through the Mixer, but most of my traction, most of my stuff is on LinkedIn. So just, go to just search on LinkedIn. You'll find me. And if you find any posts about EP Mixer, you'll know you're in the right place. But there I am. And that's where I spend most of my time.
Awesome. And folks listening to the show, please follow us on YouTube, subscribe us, hit that bell so it helps with the algorithms, make some comments on the platforms. We're on all the podcast platforms, so make comments on that. If you hate us, we think we suck, let us know. And
you just need the content, Mark. You just keep the comments coming in.
hate me, love me, whatever. You like chocolate, you like flavin, tell us what your favorite wine is. I don't know, your favorite drink. Thanks for supporting the show, folks. And just thanks for tuning in. And thanks, Craig, for coming on and sharing some wisdom to everybody in the industry, what they need to get out of their own way and network like human superpower people.
Agreed. It's been my pleasure, man. I'm glad we could make this happen. And I'm always happy anytime I can talk about networking or Vegas. I jump on it. So yeah.
And my team will be there supporting the mixer as well. So we'll see you guys there. Yeah. And we'll do this podcast. I'm going to tell my team to watch this Monday just to promote the mixer as well to get it out there circulating. So I'm going to have them try to get this pushed out Monday so we can help you guys support it.
Thanks.
But anyway, with that said, we'll see you all in the next episode of the Fearless Mindset Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.